Alright guys, we're rolling right into the next video and we're going to be doing a look at Jayden. And the reason I said look at is because I don't have a global account. I'm not going to make a global account, and this is not the character to make me consider making a global account. So let's talk about Summer Jayden from a JP perspective. Would, based on what I've seen on Wotv Calc, pull for this unit? Yes or no? Do I think he's worth it right before Final Fantasy 13 and Tactics? And, worst case scenario, is he worth pitying? So he is a wind elemental unit, and he is a ranged elemental wind unit. And this is an interesting, really fun week in terms of comparisons because, hey, guess what? JP just ended up getting a wind elemental unit that is a ranged character as well, that is a 70 cost as opposed to a 100 limited cost character. That is really fun because on my JP video, I said that Charisse is really good, but just not worth the pity that Wotv wants you to pay for in worst case scenarios. And we kind of do go by worst case scenarios because that's what you need to deal with sometimes. And collaborations do have incredibly strong, sometimes better value characters. So is Jaden super good? Well, he does have Beach Sag, Arithmetician, and Scholar. Great combination of classes, I think, right out of the gate. As for his TMR, accessory with a good amount of accuracy, critical, magic, HP, everything you want, with an ability that gives 40% magic and 20 missile resistance penetration is a lot. It's just a lot. It's really good TMR. It works on multiple units. It is 2 cast. And then you look at his master ability, which also has missile attack penetration rate of 20. That's a lot. We're looking at 40 already from just a combination of TMR and master ability. Then you look at, for instance, the Hydro Pump Blaster, the weapon of choice for this character. And he's getting a 20% spirit penetration off this with an increased attack of missile attack. So before we even have gotten into his kit, there's a lot going for this unit. And since he comes with a non-limited vision card, actually I really love this vision card on JP right now. I have to wait and see if that actually ends up happening. Probably not. Maybe with different armor. Anyway. Magic, missile resistance, this is all great for Jayden, right? This is just great for Jayden. This is the Jayden card, and it very much reads as that. But the thing that I'm interested in is the fact that on this card, isn't the 10% slash resistance or the acquired AP up by 50? All of that's really nice. We're looking at missile resistance penetration, 35. So vision card in tow, fully maxed, with his TMR, and his master ability. We're looking at effectively, just out of the gate, 75% missile resistance penetration, ignore. And that's a lot. And we haven't even gotten to the main yet. Now, as for resistances and whatnot, resistances are generally okay, but nothing too interesting. If he was to potentially maybe be countered in a big way, Charm is a nasty status effect that can really do it, and he can be slowed himself, so really in a mirror matchup might end up coming down to just who gets a status effect off first. That might be a bad way to go. As for his matchup in terms of ice and who he might be fighting with ice, I mean, Snow is coming, and Snow will be very good against this unit, regardless of how much resistance penetration he can get through, because I mean, if it's just hitting 100% anyway and he just has an elemental disadvantage, that might be a overall problem for him. As against other missiles, I mean, 20% resistance is nice and you can buff that up for sure, but he's not the only unit with missile resistance penetration, especially into the future. And Eliza with Elia combination is a really deadly one. Trust me, I've done it a lot over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to say that. As for taking a look into the main part, or let's look. Overall, nothing impressive in counters. Counters overall are just whatever. I mean, he has a chance to counter and absorb HP, sure, but that's probably not as good of a range as you potentially want. As for the King Goes First, it is a preemptive attack and it is a preemptive counter, and that can be really strong with a really damage dealer unit. But I don't think that most times, because there is a fair amount of just reaction ability countering going on out there. As for his support skills, range +2 feels good, and this Ruler's Resolve with a Spirit Penetration of 40, remember if you're keeping track, I've kind of lost the count, we're kind of looking at 75% and 80% resistance ignores on his major damage types, which is a lot. Getting him into EX, which will be a no-brainer, it's just really good, decreases AP consumption as well. Strong, strong, strong kit. Looking at his limit burst, he has a good chance of casting slow. Slow is not backbreaking all the time, but it usually is one that you'll want, and since you'll have high faith, you have a good chance of this getting off. As for Scholar, he does have some increased defense to potentially make him more tanky and whatnot. Bob Disarmament, which can decrease attack, deal damage. But honestly, while Scholar's Law of Geo-Absorption looks really good on paper, fact is that this unit is almost never going to be running a casting time debuff. And I just don't see Scholar making the cut overall, because I just don't think you can reduce his casting time enough, and that will be a kind of thorn in his. Arithmetician, on the other hand, has no casting time and definitely will be of more use, and does provide him with more multiple AoEs. Not only damage dealing AoEs, but healing AoEs. But this is where I'm going to put the kibosh on the overexcitement there. I do believe that his AI will almost never heal. Nothing about the way his the main part of his main job reads seems like his AI will prioritize healing. Could be wrong, and AI can change over time depending on how they adjust, but I just don't think that you're ever going to get this guy really being that much of a player when damage can be done, and that is a little unfortunate because it feels like that part of his kit here is pretty useless. I mean, Scholar, I just don't think you run the casting time down because it doesn't do enough. The main part of his kit, and overall from what I've seen of his HP, it's good. It's really good for a 100 cost. It's good for a 100 cost unit, I guess, having seen the 70 cost Charisse HP. But it's not enough, and he really doesn't have any methods of survival outside of changing the TMR, in which case you're sacrificing damage, and that might not be a good trade-off most of the time. So I do want to say that I think that Scholar is not worth running. Arithmetician might be worth running, but if you're really expecting him to do heals or be any kind of a healer or a substitute healer, no, I don't see it. I guess when people test him out, we'll see. But yeah. As for Beachside Stag, piercing damage and chance to inflict silence, I think that this is completely cuttable. Piercing damage is interesting sometimes, but I don't think it's worth it. As into the main part of his job, decreasing AP for target, increased magic, and spirit penetration, so basically he can hit 100% spirit penetration. For now, I have a feeling that we're getting to the end of the resistance penetration phase that we're kind of going through right now, because a lot of units are just starting to hit 100%, which means that something new is probably on the way, so that might not be super good. As for Suns Out and Guns Out, an agility boost is great, and auto restore is also really nice. Nothing much to say there. Dispel all buffs for target, dispel haste, does become a 100% hit chance. That is always going to be valuable and a plus in any unit's book. Reduce the chance for counters to happen is nice for 3 turns by 100%, so very, very good against annoying counters such as reflex. As for this one, decreasing healing power by 50 feels a little flat. So Jaden very clearly is really good at dealing damage, but there are some things. His kit is far from perfect. There are things that he is missing. I don't think that he has really enough to make him that good against ice ranged. Sure, you can throw an ice range tank, and I have thrown the possibility of putting fire and wind together because of a dual element vision card, but that has not been tested by me, so I cannot vouch for how really much value you'll get out of that combination. Other than that, he doesn't have barrier destruction. He does have dispelling buffs, which is great. He does have AoEs, which is also really good. Really just one AoE in his main kit, but that's kind of enough. Doesn't have any chaining, which is kind of weird for a wind unit. As I noted with my Charisse review, there are a few... she does have some chaining abilities, which will make her good in multiple pieces of content, where Jayden just doesn't, and that is also a consideration. I think that Jayden, I guess we'll just sum up. I think that Jayden is a really, really good unit that will struggle in certain matchups, and while definitely being strong because he's getting the entire package, and I think that Global has gone a little more on the blow him out of proportion side to make sure that he is exciting when he comes to Global, despite what's coming in the future. If you wonder about how I would compare him, I don't know if he would be super great against Agrius, because Agrius is pretty good. Any unit that has a barrier, he will definitely kind of struggle with, and AP probably won't be that much of a consideration. I don't think he's going to be any kind of a healer or amazing other unit. Zidali probably does that already anyway, but the two might work in combination. Is weird because story, but I think that Jayden is a strong enough recommendation for those who are maybe on the fence of getting a new wind unit. That being said, you have to prepare to go to pity for both the character and the vision card. There isn't two ways about it. You need both, and you kind of need to push both into max to really, really, really benefit. And you're going to need to push that benefit into the future. And you kind of need already a wind grouping already. I don't think he'll do well enough without a really good tank like June or King Mont, potentially in a worst case scenario. That may require you to get the Dark Tetra selfie. There's a lot of ifs and buts here. I mean, there is two very strong collaborations, and I still stand behind Lightning being a really great unit. I stand behind Snow being a really tough unit to kill, and one that has made ice teams way more viable in combination with Bears plus ranged unit, or, you know, double ranged units behind a Snow. It does work, and it works really well. So yeah, not perfect, very strong though. I can tell even from over here on the JP side. If he was coming out today on JP, would I get him? I think I'd go for the vision card more, because the vision card, wind, non-limited vision cards are way more interesting to me than wind units at the moment. Jayden is definitely tempting because his kit is overall superior, and to a lot of wind range units such as Cowl, Charisse, and all of that. And he does feel like an overall improvement over regular Jayden too. But with a new collaboration on the JP side coming up, I would definitely not pull immediately. And for anybody who isn't 100% certain on him, maybe let other people take the lead on this one and potentially go in later. But I do think you need to have the 50k ready drop to make sure that you get both him, his vision card, and potentially even more to get there. But for those who are waiting, there are cheaper, really great, strong units coming in the future. And for people who are ice, I think you'll have good matchups even into wind, even with this unit coming out. And Jayden will be good against multiple other elements. But unfortunately, I'm also going to ding this unit. Before we end this video, I'm going to ding this unit on just one more aspect. And that's who his good matchups are. Because right now, a lot of people are saying, well, he's really good against Earth. So are a lot of elements. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you're going to go for Jayden or whatnot. Do you think that Jayden is absolutely worth it? I do think he's worth it, but it really depends on what you want and where your elemental priorities lie. As for me, I'm done. So yeah. And yeah, I mean, right now on JP, it's just waiting to see what that new collaboration is going to be. Tune in Friday. find out.